Ms. Humphreys. Ms. Humphrey, can you please call the roll?
Absolutely. President Thompson,
Present.
Member Kazi, Member Gresham,
Here.
Member Holcomb,
Here.
Member Hunt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm still trying to log into the computer. Join the meeting. There we go. We did things a little out of order today as the Meadows Middle School students, and after their showcase, led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We need to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Hunt, seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Is there any need for an executive session? Hearing none, before we move on to communications and announcements, presentations and awards, I want to thank all the Madison Meadows Middle School students for the showcase today. You all did an excellent job. We deeply appreciate you being here today, so thank you. Dr. Guerin, presentations and recognitions.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'm honored to welcome Ms. Anna Andrews, president of MSD38, to the podium.
Thank you. The You Make the Difference in Shining Star Awards are presented by the Madison District Classified, Certified, and Classroom Teachers Association and Madison Administration to recognize the certified and classified staff who truly demonstrate Madison's vision of inspiring passion for learning and leading in an ever-changing world. All right, and tonight's first You Make the Difference award recipient is Karen Hoffman. We recognize Karen Hoffman for the meaningful difference she makes at Madison-Simus. Karen is a dedicated educator who consistently goes above and beyond for our third grade students. This year, she attended every single student conference, and her presence made a strong impact, showing the partnership between our co-teachers. Families appreciated seeing both teachers together, united in support of their children and committed to the inclusion co-teaching model. Karen individualizes student work in ways that help students connect learning at school with learning at home. She plans engaging activities that support understanding across subjects. Lessons are planned with specially designed instruction that aligns to each of her students' needs. The students who work with Ms. Hoffman love learning because they know that she will make school fun and intentional. Karen is deeply committed to inspiring her students to become lifelong learners, and she brings joy and creativity to every lesson she teaches. She continually seeks out new tools and strategies, blending district-adopted resources with her own innovative ideas to create engaging crosswords, word searches, and practice passages for families that align with the weekly phonics and vocabulary focus. Karen also fosters a warm, welcoming classroom community through thoughtful traditions, such as having students write letters to her cat, who writes back to them. These delightful exchanges, proudly displayed in her room, highlight the meaningful connections she builds with her students and the imaginative spirit she brings to her work every day. Working with Karen is truly enjoyable. Her colleagues always share how flexible, positive, and supportive Karen is around SIMUS. She is truly always willing to jump in and help. Karen notices what students need, look for ways to improve engagement, and takes action without being asked. She makes learning fun for students and makes teaching fun for her team. Karen is committed, creative, collaborative, and deeply student-centered. We are proud to celebrate her today because she truly makes the difference at Madison SIMUS.
Karen, would you like to say something?
Sure.
Right here, because we have a microphone.
Okay. I was so shocked to receive this award, obviously, but I feel so honored and appreciative. This goes with a huge thank you to our team at SIMUS. We have an amazing staff, and I am so fortunate to be part of it each and every day, especially with Lindsay, Ashley, Roxanne, Ariana, and of course, my awesome co-teacher, Nancy Magnuson. I probably shouldn't say too much more amazing things about SIMUS because people will be applying for my job. So with that, I will say a huge thank you to everyone who supports our students and helps me be the best I can be. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Can everybody here you'd like to introduce?
Well, we have our assistant principal, Ashley Bowman, Roxanne Little, our social worker, my co-teacher, Nancy Magnuson, my boyfriend, and that's it.
My boyfriend.
My boyfriend, Mike.
Our next You Make the Difference Award recipient is MJ Metchin. I have the honor of recognizing someone who makes such a profound impact on our school community that even fifth grade math homework seems less intimidating when she's around. And that, my friends, is a superpower. We are thrilled to present the You Make the Difference Award to someone who truly embodies calm, consistency, creativity, and perhaps most impressively, the ability to get 5th and 6th graders excited about math and science. MJ teaches both 5th grade math and 6th grade science, and in both classrooms, she channels her best self, always calm, always steady, and always about 5 steps ahead of the rest of us. If grace under pressure were a state standard, she'd be the exemplar. In math, she has embraced building thinking classrooms so effectively that her students aren't just solving math problems, they're leading mathematical conversations, challenging one another's reasoning, and even, occasionally, teaching us a thing or two during walkthroughs. She consistently analyzes data, adjusts instruction, and somehow manages to make number sense feel like common sense. And in science, well, MJ is a force there too. She uses next-generation science practices, not just as a framework, but as a mindset. Her students run scientist circles, taking charge at the driving question board, and investigate like they're preparing for NASA internships. The classroom culture she has built allows students to take responsibility for their learning in ways that are truly remarkable. More than once, we've walked into her room and wondered, do the students even need adults anymore? Don't worry, they still do, but just barely. Beyond the classroom, MJ is the teammate every school dreams of having. This year, she dove into chaperoning our annual Friendly Pines 5th grade camp trip with absolute enthusiasm. Within 24 hours, she looked like she'd been leading camp songs for decades. Calm on the outside, probably praying for coffee on the inside, but still smiling and cheering kids on through every challenge. Her positivity, initiative, and willingness to jump in anywhere, any task, anytime, make MJ an invaluable part of Madison Meadows. And if all of that weren't enough, she's also a Madison Schools alum, a true product of our district, who still lives right here in the community. We like to think this proves two things. Madison really does grow excellent people, and she's never getting away from us. We'd like to honor MJ not only for the extraordinary teacher she is, but for the colleague, leader, and role model she continues to be. She truly makes a difference every day for every student, for every colleague. Please join me in congratulating MJ.
Thank you. I like your outfit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Students, do you want to sit? You can sit down if you want. You don't have to stand.
Oh, they're young, make them stand.
I just want to say thank you so much. I love working in Madison and love working at Madison Meadows. And I appreciate and I'm grateful for having the most amazing staff and the most supportive admin. And it's special being on the teacher side after being on the student side of Madison. So thank you again, and it means a lot to me. Sure. My co-teacher, Caitlin, my boyfriend, Adam, my best friend, Megan, and my parents.
Yeah. By the way, don't listen to me, nobody does. Please sit down.
Feel free. You scared them.
That's the kindest thing
trying
anyone
to
has
be
said
good.
to them all day.
Santa and smile.
All right, our first Shining Star Award recipient is Tana Scott. Tana first joined Simus as a noon duty aide and quickly stepped into the role of kindergarten aide. From the beginning, she brought energy and care to her work. She now supports our kindergarten team full-time and helps new staff feel welcome, comfortable, and ready to do their best. Every day, Tana brings joy to our classrooms. She knows every kindergartner by name and greets them with a smile and a small comment that shows she truly knows them. She supports small group lessons, keeps students engaged, and pays close attention to how they are progressing. She also helps teachers prepare materials, complete assessments, and organize leveled lessons for students who need extra practice or an extra challenge. Tana's small group instruction is a highlight for many students. Students enjoy working with Ms. Tana, and they grow academically because she gives them clear steps, quick feedback, and activities that make learning feel exciting. Her consistent routines help students feel safe, confident, and proud of their progress. Her commitment extends beyond the classroom. She created the Kindergarten Buddy Bench program, where we collect bottle caps to exchange for a new bench that can be a safe space to encourage friendship. She also serves as our classified representative on the site council, taking part in school decisions that benefit our students and staff. Around campus, Tana brightens our classrooms and environment with new themed bulletin boards to celebrate IB learning, connecting to classroom units, and help students see how what they've learned fits into the world around them. Tana brings kindness, creativity, and steady support to everything she does. We are proud to honor her as our shining star.
Congratulations.
I'd love to hear from you. Okay. Well, thank you to the board and thank you to the district and Dr. Guerin. You are so pretty. When she was giving me my award, I just like, Tana, don't cry and laugh. You can say that anytime. I was thinking the whole time. Thank you to my mom.
Hey, Mom.
Thanks for retiring so I could go back to work. And thanks for my family for coming here and my kindergarten team. And Miss Vicky over there, the other shining star kindergarten aide. Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
And our next Shining Star Award recipient is Dolores Saldana. I am pleased to recognize someone whose dedication to Madison Meadows has stretched across multiple teachers and principals, a whole parade of students, and a few construction projects. 26 years worth, to be exact. We are so proud to honor Dolores Saldana. Yes, that is worthy of applause. We are so proud to honor Dolores Saldana as Madison Meadows Shining Star Award recipient, an award well-deserved because she truly goes above and beyond in her work. Dolores has spent her entire career as a special education paraprofessional, working in our multiple disabilities classroom, where she brings patience, consistency, and a sense of humor that can brighten even the wildest school day. She supports students as they practice math and reading, works with manipulatives to help them make connections, and guides them in building daily living skills that help them grow more independent. Her calm presence and steady encouragement don't just help students learn, they make learning a joy. Dolores supports students when they push into regular classes like art, PE, and science, and she's filled in as a one-to-one paraeducator when we've been short-staffed. Whether she's helping a student join a group project, try something new, or simply feel confident in a busy classroom, she makes inclusion look seamless. Outside of her classroom role, Dolores serves on our Madison Meadows Site Council, offering her insight, experience, and genuine care for our community, and she participates in our chapter of Best Buddies, which brings general ed and special ed students together for authentic learning. And as if all that weren't enough, Dolores typically works on campus during the summer as a custodian. While most people imagine summer as the quiet season, Dolores is here helping deep clean classrooms, organize supplies, wipe down furniture, and prepare every space for a fresh start in August. And probably one of our favorite things about Dolores is her laugh. Warm, contagious, and instantly recognizable. When you hear it, you can't help but smile. Dolores, you make Madison Meadows better every single day. You support our students, strengthen our programs, and brighten all our days with your humor and your heart. You are, without a doubt, a shining star. Please join me in celebrating Dolores Saldana, the Madison Meadows Shining Star Award recipient. We're so grateful for everything you do.
I would like to say thank you to Ms. Clark and Ms. Sherman for giving me the opportunity, to Ms. Roebuck, who I've been an aide for a while, and to Ms. Yachty, Giselle Maria, who's been part of me in this journey, to my children, my husband, and my grandkids.
Congratulations to all the award recipients. We're going to move to the superintendent's report next, but before we do that, I just want to say, I know this is going to be a riveting meeting and you all want to stick around, but don't feel like you have to. Go ahead and stand up and take your leave if you feel you need to. Dr. Guerin, superintendent's report.
President Thompson, I know how to clear a room.
Apparently I do too.
So actually, I have a couple fun photos with my superintendent report. Just wait one
Go ahead
second.
and give it a moment.
I think 2 out of 4 of them cried. I mean, it was very emotional. All right, please join me in congratulating Dr. Lomeli, who has been awarded Arizona School Personnel Administrators Association's Legacy Award for outstanding service and impact in the field of education. You can see her pictured with her team at the awards ceremony. This recognition honors Dr. Lomeli's exceptional leadership and lasting contributions to our school. And if all of us that know Dr. Lomeli are not surprised at all that she received this award, she leads with such grace, patience, and she honors everyone she works with. Thank you, Dr. Lomeli. And Rose Lane had a special visitor fly in from the North Pole. Oh, the little ones had a jolly time when Santa visited, and I think there were 2 new elves that helped. Principal Reyes and Assistant Principal Starkman had a wonderful time, so thanks to Santa. I also want to thank the Madison Simus Pats and Simus community for adopting families for the holidays at all 8 of our Madison schools. The social workers and counselors from each of our 8 schools refer families to the Simus committee. Madison number 1 social worker Ann Van Way recently shared, the Pats Family Assistance Committee, as always, is going above and beyond to ensure MSD students do not go without during the holidays. I truly admire all the work they do, and I especially admire their compassion and kindness when reaching out to the families who've asked for assistance. So once again, thank you, Madison Simus. And I can't believe that it's already December, and it's time to say goodbye to Luella. Last December, this board was named the 2025 Arizona School Board Association Luella Klein's Excellence in Governance Award. The award is named in memory of former ASBA Executive Director Luella Klein's. This recognition is reserved for a board that has shown exceptional dedication, innovation, and a commitment to the betterment of our district, school, and community. Receiving this prestigious award reflects the tireless effort of this board. It is time to return Luella and for another board to be recognized for 2026. However, I want to take a moment to once again thank the board for their unwavering leadership. It's hard to believe the second quarter is coming to an end. Normally, I list all the events that the board goes to or I go to or is held. There's just too many to name. From carnivals, performances, spelling bees, and assemblies, the community events this quarter have continually showcased the strong partnership among parents, staff, students, and community members. Reflecting on all we have accomplished together in supporting our amazing Madison students this quarter, I'm really filled with deep gratitude. Thank you to everyone for care and dedication to each and every Madison learner this holiday season.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. Let's start with Mr. Holcomb today.
Thank you. That was actually a very special visit. There was 11 classrooms that came into the library, and we sang, and they were just phenomenal. They didn't give you the best picture though, because there is a picture of me sitting on Mr. Immis's lap, asking him to see if he could get somebody to clean out the reindeer set. But in any event, and yeah, this is a busy season, and I hope some of you may get an opportunity to go to the, in particular, the Camel View drive-through this coming Friday. It is a unique event. That's a community event, and it actually is one of the good things that came out of COVID. Because prior to that, we did it within the school and just doing classes. Then because you couldn't do that, did it as a drive-through event, and it's become a very nice thing. And so we can always use elves there too. I also wanted to recognize the phenomenal presentation we had from the Madison Meadow Junior Honor Society, and all the activities that they have going on there and all the service that they provide for our community. I just want to wish everybody, we're not going to see them again. Everybody have a very happy holiday and a great new year. I'm looking forward to this next year, particularly in the Madison School District. If you want to get a picture with Santa, this coming Sunday, I will be at the First United Methodist Church. My barbershop chorus is doing a holiday festival, and part of that is you can get your picture taken with Santa. But there's so much going on; it's busy for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb. Ms. Kazi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am so sorry for my tardiness. The choir I managed was singing at the Arizona State Veterans Home, and you can't leave when it's just out of respect. I had to stay till the end. And then there was the parking garage, which I had forgotten about. Yes, I was like, I brought the wrong car today. I want to congratulate Dr. Lomeli. What an incredible honor. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for all the great work you've done. I remember when you were brought over by Dr. Baca, right? And he just sang your praises, and he was absolutely right. We're just so thrilled that you're here at Madison and all the great work you've done. I wanted to let the board know that I had the honor of representing the board, kind of. The Arizona Education Association did a event this afternoon where they brought in journalists from around the state who cover education. And I had the honor, and I don't know why they chose me, because I was like, why am I doing this? Luckily, I had Dr. Guerin and Ms. Thompson to help me provide guidance on the whole ecosystem of education, ranging from the U.S. Department of Education down to school boards and MDCTA school associations, teacher associations. In addition, Savannah Galavaz-Gooch, who is our librarian at Camelback, at Camel View, was also a presenter, so Madison was very well represented. We are certainly a district that people ask for insight and presentations on, so I actually had a school board member, or a principal from another district come up and say, could any of your board members join our board? I won't say what board that was, but I was like, no. Sorry. But I'm so sorry to have missed the presentation from Meadows. They always do such a great job. I want to just extend holiday greetings to everyone, and then thank again. I just always am appreciative of this board. Again, was reminded again at the presentation, the board members and the work we do and the respect we have for each other. I just don't take it for granted. You guys are all fabulous, and it's an honor to work with you all. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes, first, Dr. Lomeli, congratulations. Really incredible credit to your career, your dedication to the field, and we are incredibly lucky to have you here. So thank you for your dedication to Madison. It's noted and appreciated, and we love having you here. So thank you, and congratulations. NJHS from Meadows, wow, incredible. The things that are happening at Meadows really demonstrates not only the excellence of the district, but of Meadows and the work of the administration, the teachers, the staff, the entire team there. It was really heartwarming to talk to those students and then have each of them talk about kind of where they were going to high school and how they were excited about that. Reflecting on that, as I have a high school student that's about to graduate, and how much the Madison identity sticks with those students no matter where it is they go, that they're still a Meadows kid or they're an MTA kid or they're Heights kid, right? They still have those identities as they go into high school, which I think demonstrates the quality work that's happening within Madison. So that was really great to see. Just want to say good luck to all the folks engaged in winter sports. I don't have winter sports right now, which I'm incredibly happy when I talk to people who do, but good luck to the students and the parents as you navigate that, as well as all of the other after-school activities that are in full swing, like Odyssey of the Mind and all those things that are in the works right now as we go into the holiday season. Finally, just want to say happy holidays to everybody. As you're going out and talking to friends or family or neighbors over the holiday season, make sure everybody's thinking about sending their kids to Madison. And if they're in district, if they're out of district, have them consider sending kids here, because there's something special going on here. It's a special place, and we would like all of you to be great advocates for getting your neighbors and friends to send their kids to Madison. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Ms. Gresham.
Good evening, thank you. Before I forget, Mr. Hogan, what time is the Camel View drive-through on Friday?
It starts at about 5 o'clock when it gets in, and it goes till about 7, and as long as the cars are coming. And yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so I want to thank the students that were here tonight and our award winners, although nobody's left. We have our 3 remaining audience members, but thank you to all of them for all they do. And of course, congratulations to Dr. Lomley. I noticed late this week and every time lately when we open up the weekly update, and there's like hardly any openings, and it's so cool to see. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So thank you. That's attributable to you and your team. So let's see. We have spelling bees. Park was last week. That went very well. And I have Meadows on Friday. And then, of course, we have our District B in January. I can't remember if I went to the park turkey trot. I don't remember if we've had a meeting since then, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. So yeah, the turkey trot was really cool. Ms. Duffy does an amazing job. It's all day. You go during your elective, and it's not a fundraiser or anything. It's just to get the kids out there, and they go and run around, and there's like games and prizes, and it was really cool. I got to give out tickets as they went around the track, and they got to use our beautiful new track as well. So that was also fun. So everyone have a wonderful holiday and a wonderful break, and we will see you in January. Thanks.
I too want to congratulate you, Dr. Lomley. It isn't lost on me, having been in education a really long time, that we have so few openings at Madison. A lot with our culture, but it also has to do with the incredible work of you and your team to make sure that our staff feels supported and wants to stay, but also communicating what a great culture and what a great place to work this is. So thank you. Congratulations on your award. I also want to thank, I heard Ms. Humphrey came up with the idea in our weeklies to have those little pictures of Where's Luella, and I thought that was fantastic to kind of see that award not just be here in the district office, but to travel around. I thought that was really special. So thanks for doing that. And it is an award I think that we as board members share with everyone in the district, and we're really proud of that. As many folks already said, we've gone through district winter testing. We've got all the winter shows that have been going on, and they have been amazing. The students are so talented at every one of our schools. My kids are playing winter sports right now against Meadows students, in fact. And I actually ran into some parents whose kids were on the JV teams who hadn't visited Park yet, and they were just blown away by how beautiful the campus was and the gym. Somebody said, "Is this the high school's gym?" And I'm like, "Nope, it's our gym." They happen to use it too, but they were very excited to see it and thought it was really great. So really wonderful that that our our community supports bonds that can have buildings that not only make students feel special and valued as they go to school, but are real assets to the community. So thank you for that. Also about Park, Miss Gossett showed me some pictures. She went into the building last week to take a look. It looks seamless from the other building. Really excited for that to open next semester. I said to her as I was watching the soccer game, I said, "Oh, that security tape up on the roof is gone. It must be close." So excited for that to happen. And then finally, happy holidays to everyone, whatever your religion or not, whatever you're celebrating. Hope everyone has a happy and safe holiday season, and that our students and faculty and staff get some restful time off during the 2-week winter holiday. With that, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything to remove from the consent agenda? And if not, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Oh, second.
Motion made by Ms. Gresham, seconded by Ms. Causey. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is call to the public. Pursuant to board policy, time has been set aside for a call to the public. This is an opportunity to address the entire board in a public setting to express their views or concerns. State law limits our ability to respond to comments made during call to the public. However, we do hear remarks and ask the superintendent to follow up and provide us with information regarding any issues raised. To keep us on schedule, each speaker has no more than 3 minutes. Ms. Humphries, I believe we don't have any calls to the audience today?
We have no calls to public.
No calls to the public today. Moving on, next item on the agenda is board policies. We have a slew of board policies to second read, and I'll hand this over to Dr. Guerin, but it's my understanding we're going to vote on these as a package. Okay, Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, I'll turn it over to Ms. Marshall.
Thank you, President Thompson, members of the board, members of cabinet. The items before you for policy revision, these are the second read. These are all based on changes to legislation through Senate and House bills, so legal requirements that are already in place. There has been no public comment since the previous board meeting for the first read, so these are presented as they were with no changes, and we ask that you approve the policy changes.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt all of the board policies 7.2, 7.4, and 7.5 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hunt, seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, information items, our demographic study for the Madison School District. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, we're very excited to welcome back Rick Brammer, and I'd like to turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Thompson to introduce him.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. If you remember, we had a earlier presentation where we kind of reviewed the overview of kind of what's happening at a state level. To put in context our conversation this evening on the Madison story, I will say that keep in mind that when you look at demographic information at a district level, it's very good. When you look at it at a school level, I'm probably stealing some of Rick's thunder, but school by school is always a little bit more difficult. So we're still focused on a little bit bigger picture on the idea of just kind of what's happening in general in our district and how does that affect our decision making as we go forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rick.
Thanks, Scott. President Thompson, Vice President Kazai, members of the board, Dr. Guerin, it's my pleasure to be here tonight to present the results of the demographic update. It's nothing new for Mr. Thompson to steal my thunder. He's been doing that for about 20 years. So No, it's good. I appreciate working with him and working with you all and being part of the family at Madison. So we'll go to the next slide, which is just the scope of the study. Most of you have seen all of this before, so it won't be any surprise, but obviously we're focusing on enrollment trends of every kind, district level, sub-district level. Unfortunately, what's going on with alternative providers in and around the district and those kinds of issues. As we talked about, I think a little bit when I was here a couple months ago, you got a mature population now, so the demographic characteristics of who is already here is very important, and that's what it's actually more important than all the building that we see going on, particularly because most of the building we see going on isn't designed for families and won't have children. But nonetheless, we do look at residential development that's going on in the district, so we have that one covered. It isn't a big impact to the district, but it can be a big impact to one school during one period of time. So we still something that we look at. And then two sets of projections, a macroeconomic district model. How does Madison fit into the fabric of the Phoenix community of Maricopa County? And that's where we look at macro trends like birth rates and economic growth and those kinds of factors that are a little bit harder to grasp at the micro level, but we want to make sure that we're recognizing them at the district level. And then, of course, at the sub-district level, we do all of our modeling for the 51 grids, we call them, basically quarter square mile areas within the district. So pretty much all the data we have for the district, we also have repeated for the grids. And because we've been doing it, you guys have been nice enough to have us back for a while. We have data that tells me how many students have come out of each one of these grids going clear back to 2010. So it really makes for a fabulous base for modeling and for figuring out which districts are going up and which ones are going down. You guys don't have a lot of attendance area changes. In fact, do you know when the last time there was a boundary change in Madison? No. And that is, I'll tell you what, that is unique, and talk about special, because there's so many districts, whether you're growing or declining, you're constantly, moving the chairs around on the deck. And you guys really you've had such stability, you haven't really had to do that. And that's really a nice thing. So, but the grids don't change, so we can track our data over time. If we look at enrollment, we use headcount enrollment from the 40th day year over year so that it's apples to apples, the blue bar being the total actually K-8 enrollment, and then the red squiggly line, which is keyed to the right axis, is the year over year percent change. And so you can see, for a long time, basically from 2000 clear through 2013, we had enrollment growth. And that enrollment growth during that period of time, as you'll see in a minute, was almost 100% due to increases from outside of the district. And then it sort of became a balancing act where we still had some growth from outside, but inside started to decline and enrollment went flat. And enrollment stayed flat. And strong compared to a lot of your neighbors during this particular period of time, because we've worked with Creighton and worked with Baltz, and I've seen, what happened to their enrollment patterns. So very good testament to the district that you were able to even maintain enrollment during that period. And then, of course, along comes COVID. And like many of the districts we work for, not only was there a fairly big drop, there was no bounce back. People in especially more affluent areas, it seems like, embraced choice, and there were a lot of resources that were put into providing more choice online and otherwise. And so in a lot of places, we didn't see any real bounce back. What we did see here that I haven't seen anywhere else is that since then, net enrollment's only down by 36 students in 5 years. Now, it's up and down a little bit year to year. I think it's down a little bit this year, but overall, that's the most stable environment that I've seen in Arizona education as I've done my work throughout this entire year. So that is a very good thing. We look at the way the enrollment is distributed by grade group. And as you can see, if you go back, the beginning period here, there was a 6-8 was the smallest group amongst the students. And so for whatever reason, people were either leaving the market, which I don't believe, or they were choosing other providers as their children aged. But as you can see now, it's kind of flipped around, and now the K2 is the smallest group. And that's birth rates, that's competition from ESAs, that's a whole lot of stuff stacking up, to put it that way. But also the fact of the matter is housing prices and availability in the district are basically, it's difficult for young families, let's put it that way. And so we're seeing a lot more move-ins in the upper grades. And Mr. Thompson and I were talking about this in particular this year. We see the 6-8 group took, a sudden little growth up there. And it's interesting because that's one of those transition points for most districts. And it doesn't happen to be for you guys the way you're organized, but for a lot of districts around you, K5 and 6-8 is a transition point. And I think that you benefit by people looking at their options for middle school, just like people are looking at their options, I know from 8th grade in this district, for high school. It's the same kind of thing. So that is a key point, and I think that's something that we could kind of maybe promote even. I mean, one of the places, where it's safe to send your middle schooler. That's hard to say, but it's true. The source of enrollment is kind of interesting. The blue bar is blue part of these bars is in-district enrollment, and the green bar is out-of-district enrollment. And so what I was saying before is we managed to basically break even during a time when in-district enrollment, fell precipitously and, it was offset completely. So able to keep the seats you had filled. That's what it really came down to. I think if you went back far enough, I imagine you weren't taking everybody who came to the, who wanted to be in the district. And as availability opened up, you were able to immediately fill that space. Again, that's a great credit to the district. If you look post-2020, I don't know if it's good or bad, but we've actually had a little bit of a decline in out-of-district component over the 5-year period. Now, it was up a little bit this year. It went backwards of the 5-year trend, but as you can see overall, your in-district component has actually been stronger since 2020. Again, a very good thing. And if you look at it on the map, we've got right now this year 2,842, in-district students. And this is color-coded by density per square mile, but the little number in each side actually shows you how many students you are serving from each one of the planning grids, as we call them, and the concentrations and the strength I'm seeing, of the corridor between 16th Street and 7th Street has been phenomenal. And the families in the district, especially when you get north of Camelback, that really seems to be the sweet spot for families, who want to come into the district too, that not just the ones that are here, but that want to come here. So as I said, if you look at the last 5 years, this map now shows the change by grid. And if it's blue, you lost students. And if it's red, you gained students. And so it's a bit of a checkerboard, but overall, that 5-year period, up by 73 students inside of the district. And again, I was talking about the strength of that corridor along 16th Street in particular, where I know there's been a lot of emphasis on redevelopment, see a lot of houses being knocked down and rebuilt. And again, those are all good things to see people making that kind of an investment in the district. In terms of the demographics, it's an interesting place because the top chart looks at just population, housing units, and then the population under 18 are the columns, and then the line on top is the percent of the population that's under 18. So essentially what's happened is that from 2000 to 2010 was a rough period in Phoenix. That was the Great Recession. And a lot of places had high vacancy rates in 2010. And so you can see the actual population fell slightly in the district between 2000 and 2010. Since then, it has grown fairly strongly based on the addition of housing units. As you can see, the blue bar keeps getting bigger and bigger for us. And what stays almost exactly the same is the population under 18. So even though we've added all of these housing units and so forth, it's just, it's just not adding to that group. Now, it's not getting smaller either. I want to point out that's not a bad thing, just to not be getting smaller. The bottom chart is a breakdown of age of householders in the district. And for the under 55 group, I've actually separated that into two groups, owners and renters. And on a per unit basis, of course, we typically get more students out of the owner units than we do out of the renter units. And what's happened most recently is because most of the renter units that have been added have been luxury, urban lifestyle type of apartments, we really don't get students out of them. So, so we can have growth in that renter group in particular, the blue part of the bar. You can see it getting bigger, but it's not translating into school-age people. And it's not, we just finished Bulls, and all the apartments that are being built along the light rail line down there, thousands and thousands of units, no kids. So this is just kind of the phenomenon that we're seeing. And then, of course, the top part of the bar, the fastest growing group has actually been householders over the age of 55. Which, basically takes it out of the picture for most of us in terms of elementary age kids. So that's what's been holding the population, at bay, if you will. It hasn't declined, but there's been nothing to make it grow either. At the same time, we've got charter schools, alternative providers that we're working with. It's interesting to me that there's 11 schools operating in or near the district. And as you can see, their enrollment actually peaked clear back in 2016-17 at over 4,000 students. And so they've actually seen, more decline by far than you've experienced during this same period of time. Again, it's a good thing. One of the interesting things, though, is the bottom table is different in that I used to only look at the charter schools that were active in your district or around your district and assumed that was a proxy for, the direction everything was heading. And just the last few years, the Arizona Department of Education has released this data that shows where publicly funded students go from each district. So it doesn't count private schools, doesn't count, a lot of other things, but in terms of publicly funded. And there's a couple of amazing things is that considering that you are losing close to half of your in-district population, we're talking 25 or 2,600 students going somewhere else. The biggest one is 134 at Villa Montessori, and that they're spread out across 91 different districts and charter schools, 68 charter schools, 23 different districts. And we're seeing this, level of mobility that I personally never imagined, that there would be so many people taking their child so far. And I think we're in an environment where people commute, and you take your child with you when you go, and you get them somewhere closer on that end or what have you. But this was shocking to me. I figured we'd been kind of covering it by looking at the ones that were in each district, and it turns out it's kind of the tip of the iceberg. And I keep going back to Bulls because they have a fair number of charter schools in their district too. And you look at it, and less than half of the kids in those charter schools are Bulls kids, way less than half. They're just crossing through there on the way to their job or on the way to school or whatever it is else they're doing. So it's got me thinking a little bit differently about how big and far and wide, open enrollment really is. And maybe how we can leverage it. Obviously, you have been. People come here, they go there. So it's the same thing. And Mr. Thompson's also right on that one, is we need to kind of redouble our efforts maybe on the outside the district part. It was easy to just let people come to us, and maybe now we're in the position where maybe we need to try just a teensy bit harder to make sure that we're getting that word out. Private schools, there are 6 in the district that enroll 700 students, and the majority of those are at All Saints Episcopal with over 500. But, since you're downtown central located, that's where a lot of private and parochial schools, a lot of specialty schools just tend to congregate. And so there's 11 more just within a mile of the district that enroll another 2,500. So there's ample opportunity, essentially, for the people living in your district to access a private school. That's the bottom line, is that no matter what religion you are, no matter what your specialty is, you've probably got something relatively close to you down here. The ESAs awarded, this is also, rather new information of the number of students living in the district who have an empowerment scholarship account. When they went universal in 22-23, is the big jump here, obviously. The thing that makes you different in this case is that in a lot of districts, it's gone up that much, but it's a lot more stepped. In your district, almost everybody who was going to take a voucher took it right away. And we know in that year, about 80% of the people who took a voucher were already in a private school, which is why you haven't suffered like everyone else has as much the last couple of years, because it really isn't, homeschooling here. It's really talking about private school and that impact. And so you can see the growth has slowed dramatically. So I'm hoping that really limits the amount of ESAs that we're going to have inside of this district. And it's slowing statewide too. I believe there's only a certain number of people for whom $7,500 a year does it for them. It's not going to pay tuition at a private school. And unless you're just stay-at-home mom and more power to you and you get your $7,500, that's really the only way it works.
I have a quick question on this slide. So is this all ESAs that are awarded? So it could be high school students, or is this specific to K-8?
This is specific to K-8.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, it is. That's a good question. This is just where they're located. I'm not sure it's all that interesting, but a lot of dots on the map. Your school's in blue, the private school's in green, and charter schools in orange. Big concentration as you get closer to downtown. You're shifting to the southwest. In terms of development, in the last 10 years, there's been about 4,000 new housing units permitted in the district. 90% of them have been multifamily, which could be townhouse, condos, all kinds of different things. But the fact of the matter is, for you, 86% of that 90% were what we call these urban lifestyle, high-rise, mid-rise projects with concierges, not playgrounds, basically. And that's what has been going on. Scattered infill development, in single family throughout the northern part of the district. And my son and daughter-in-law live in the district, so I'm pretty familiar with what's going on in their neighborhood. And the problem, not the problem, but what happens with these projects is it doesn't create affordable housing. And if there's a tear down involved, sometimes they'll tear down 2 or 3, lower density houses that were somewhat affordable and build 6 or 7, at the $800,000 to $900,000 price point. And so it's something that we're dealing with. Thankfully, it's not more widespread than it is. In terms of the potential for development going forward, we identified, and it's a little hard to see on here, these polygons are small, but yellow is single family in the future, orange is multifamily. These reds, we just track all land. That's more commercial coming. But altogether, about 4,200 more units. Again, about 90% of those would be multifamily, and 3,200 will be urban lifestyle units. Now, there's about another 600 or so not urban lifestyle units. Seeing finally some apartment developers acknowledging that there might be another market out there than just the people who want a concierge. So we are seeing a little more variety in some of the proposals that are coming up right now. And I think it has to do with the saturation of that market.
I just think they've just built it and built it and built it till they can't build it anymore. So maybe we'll even see some of these future projects, look a little bit more at affordability. And I don't know what Phoenix can do, but I know Tempe is trying really hard to get projects, or at least parts of projects, put into place that are affordable to families. And even if it's not that many units, it makes a difference. It adds up a little bit at a time. It's not going to be a magic solution. It's going to be a multi-part little piece solution. So keep watching for that, because that could help our enrollment. Real quickly, lots of numbers, but we think 100 housing units will be added of that 4,000 just in the next 10 years. We've had a steady flow of single family at about 20 per year. Multifamily, you can see we're at the end of what has been an incredible upcycle. 250 more units coming online during this year that impact then enrollment fall of 26. So I lag it this year into next year. But then there's a big dip. There's about 3 years here. We've got projects that are just not coming forward. And right now, if you're not financed, you're probably not coming forward, because banks and lenders are getting really nervous about these projects. So I predict we're going to have a 2 or 3 year period here where the market pulls back and corrects and figures out what it is. But I don't think the development's going to stop around here. When I see what they've got planned around the Biltmore and all of that, the density is just keep going up and up and up. So I don't think it's going to stop development, but we may be in for a little bit of a pause. I take households by age and renter versus owner. So the most important category for me, or the column here, is how many new households are we going to have? And then I structure them into the age groups. And then I can estimate and project school-age population. So school-age population is the number of persons living in the district age 5 to 13, whether they go to your school or any school at all. They just live in the district. And on this chart, that's the green bars. And you can see the green bars have basically been exactly flat for at least the last 10 years or so. The blue bar on this is in-district enrollment. So I don't want to take total enrollment in this case. I want to look at in-district enrollment versus in-district school-age population to get to what we affectionately call the service rate. So the service rate, even though enrollment has been stable, the service rate, at least over the last 10 years, has tiptoed down a little bit. So at about, less than 0.6% per year, or about 0.6% per year. If I look at the 10 years, if I look at the last 5, what do you think the slope of that line is? Who gets to answer the question? 0. It's been 0. So I'm looking at two different, I know there's an ongoing trend towards more choice and all of this, but I still see that at least in the last 5 years, you all have been stable. So, basically my solution to that is to show you the difference between what happens if it stays stable or if it goes down at 0.6% per year, which is what this slide is all about. So if you see what I call the trend service rate scenario, where we fall from 51% to 45%, 0.6% per year times 10 years is about 6%, right? So under that scenario, given the other demographics, then we would see in district now an enrollment drop of about 370. That's just the in-district part. That's not total enrollment. If the service rate were to remain stable, minus 41, or basically almost no change in enrollment either. And that's how important, this one factor is. And I really think that I did the rest of the numbers based on you landing somewhere between those two. And that's just literally the mathematical, middle point between the other two scenarios. But I like to show it to people this way so they can kind of understand at least kind of what the ballpark is that you're playing in. Because we know that projections, there's more uncertainty as you go out in the future. We're always good for a year or 2 or 3, and then after that, start to look at how the variations occur. So So under this scenario, then the bottom right table then translates that into total enrollment. And if under the mid scenario, I'm also projecting a slight decline in out-of-district enrollment because of demographics in the areas where you're getting your students from are also in decline. Now, we may look at, trying to bolster those numbers, but from a demographic standpoint, the areas you draw from aren't growing either. So I'm imagining the pot getting somewhat smaller. So it says it falls by about 250. It's actually 290. Would be about the net decline in K-8 enrollment, total enrollment over the next 10 years. So about 290 students or so. In terms of below the district level, we do projections. There's you'll find tables in the report by attendance area, and then we do projections by school, because I'm looking at the demographics by attendance area, but I'm looking at enrollment patterns in the schools. And so what this does is shows you the relationship between those two things. And you've all probably seen this before, but let's just take the top table. So at Camel View, they have 253 students from their own attendance area, plus 5 from Simus, plus 9 from Heights, plus 21 from Rose Lane, plus 205 from outside, giving them a total attendance of 493. Even though you read it down and you're getting 341 students from that attendance area. So they gain to the tune of 150 between what we look at the attendance area and what we have in the school. And anytime you have a district that has a magnet program of some sort, a non-boundaried school, you're obviously going to get a lower percentage because in each school, because kids are choosing to go to that school of choice. But the other schools, especially Camel View, the 74% at the bottom means that out of the 250, there's 253 students attending Camel View out of the 341 Madison students who live in Camel View. So 74% of your students who live in that attendance area choose their school. And so typically you want to see those numbers higher is better. However, like I said, sometimes it's just a program that causes a movement of students. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. It's just you got students going here instead of there. So, but at 62%, that's a very, very low number. It means we got 40% of the kids in movement, which is also another thing that makes particularly school level projections difficult. Because even if I get the grand total right for the district, now I still got to worry about 40% of them, exactly where they're going to fall. And so that's just a factor that we deal with, but it's pretty common, and I like that it illustrates how much you're getting from outside the district per school. I think that's a good metric, to kind of keep an eye on. And then this is, if you look at the total reside column, that's reside 25, 26, and I compared that to 22, 23, which was the last time I did this study. So compared to 3 years ago, we got a total of 107 fewer K4 and 94 more 5-8 in total. And then you can see school by school basically where that change has been. So, at the K4 level, slight losses in all of the areas with the exception of Heights in terms of who lives there. And then slight gains at all of the middle schools because we've got a bump going through in middle schools. And so what we've got going on in our school projections, by the way, all the green is actual numbers enrolled in these schools, for the last 5 years. Our projections year by year, and then a little bit of a history. So we saw in the last 5 years, 103 fewer K4 and 78 more 5-8, minus 11 at Madison for a loss of 36. But this minus 103 that we've had going on at the K4 level is going to move up to the 5-8 level. So that bump we've got going through right now in the middle school is going to go away. And it's not going to, again, it's not going to crash, but that's the pattern that we're in right now. So we're going to be looking for declines over the next 5 years in the 5-8 schools. And then, you know, the second 5 years of the projections from 2030 through 35, it's an idea where we might be going. But again, I don't see anything that's going to make us grow like crazy or decline like crazy. I just think it's a matter of keeping our eyes on service rate and making sure we get the word out and keeping our enrollment as much as possible, you know, unchanged, which may sound boring, but there's a lot of people in this state that would love to have unchanged enrollment. So, you know, overall, the service rate appears to be stabilizing over the last 5 years compared to the 5 years before that. With most of the, you know, decline we've had in the last 5 years coming from fewer out-of-district students, yet if you look at the 10-year trend, I'm still kind of worried about it. And I still think we got to keep our eye on it to make sure that 0.6% doesn't become a reality if there's anything we can do about it. As I've gotten to know it better, the district has, I would almost call it, two communities. But there is a solid base of people who will want to be in Madison till they die, who will want their children to come back to Madison. It's a different community in that way, and that it's got this base. It's not like everybody's ready to move at the drop of a hat. It's a different community, and I think that's been, you know, part of the secret of the stability too. Residential development, the activity levels is fairly strong, but it just isn't fueling our enrollment. And in fact, I worry more that it's going to push people out, you know, that might want to live in the district more than bring them in. And we talked about using the mid-service rate. Enrollment could fall by another 250 to 300, let's just say, students over the next 10 years, but it's not a fait accompli. I mean, there's things that can be done, and like I said, I don't see any major demographic shifts affecting us. So that's the story. I'd be happy to take any questions. Yes.
Ms. Causey.
Thank you so much. Fascinating data. I'm curious. I know that you focus on numbers because numbers tell a story. You can't argue with them. But so I'm Generation X, and it seems to me like many of the parents that I know, including myself, we were shoppers. I was the victim of choice. I have a kid who went to a charter school. I went to a kid who went to an in-district school. A district went out of district. Like, I did it all. And I look back and I think, what a nightmare that was. And so I'm curious if there's any data or kind of like, any trends that you're looking at as far as millennials, because now we're seeing obviously millennial parents, but as Gen Zers start bringing their children in, will that continue, this desire to make our lives crazy with choice, or will people start to pull back and think, okay, how can I, you know, make life easier? I have a great community school. My kid can get on the bus. Oh my goodness, like life is easier. Do you have any sense of that at all?
I think that there's an interesting shift going on in that there's a shift toward conservatism, you know, pretty much everywhere you go. And there's part of that probably fuels what you're saying. But at the same time, I have 4 kids and X number of grandkids, and I don't see that. You know, I see everybody still wanting to get the best they can for their kid, and they're going to kick all the tires. It doesn't mean you might not be one of the tires, but what I'm disappointed in is that I'm not criticizing young people, I guess. I get in trouble, don't I, Scott?
You do. I'm watching.
They just don't value the neighborhood. They don't value your son knowing or daughter knowing every other child on the street. Any school is good enough. It's not the center point of the community like it was when I was growing up. And it particularly has become more secular as a society. The school was kind of the last bastion of community glue in a lot of cases. And I wish I could say, man, I think it's going to come back, but I just feel like we're still shopping.
I do think there's an underlying story to what Rick's presented in that you can look, there's a glass half full, glass half empty. The empty part is there's a demographic wave of decline that we're all dealing with. But what I really focused on was there's in-district opportunity to attract students, and there's out-of-district opportunity to attract students. And I think one of the biggest challenges, and this isn't a Madison issue, or I've seen over the years, parents make choices over their schools over some very interesting factors. And that's as much, and I don't blame that on parent. I mean, it's as much on us as a K-12 as it is on the parent. And it partly is because it's just really hard to discern the information that really matter. They tend to focus on class size, letter grades, test scores. But what they really want is a good teacher in front of their child and their child to have a great educational experience, right? And really that can happen in any school, anywhere. But communicating out that maybe we have I hate to use the military term, but a target-rich environment with really well-trained teachers and really great campuses, and getting them to how to connect with that when you're quote-unquote school shopping is maybe it's not the neighborhood that's attracting anymore. So what is the secret sauce to communicating that to folks as we move forward? We have an opportunity to stay stable or grow in this presentation.
Yeah, to that point, I think the questions that I heard at the tour Madison were interesting because people were asking about retention rates, not just about test scores and those type of things, but people were asking some of those root cause questions. So maybe they're kicking the tires, but maybe they're starting to, ask a different set of questions that we might be able to capitalize on. Ms. Gresham.
Thank you, going along with this theme, and thank you for your presentation. Always really interesting. I was wondering too, going along with what Mitra asked, do you see, I feel like parents more often now, instead of just picking a school and they stay there, they move schools a lot. Like they'll go to one school for a couple years and then they're like, well, let's try this other school. Do you see that with your research or your other
I think
districts?
there's a percentage of the population that has always kind of done that.
Yeah. Do you feel like
there's
it's
the
more
ones
now?
that always think it's going to be, this principal is going to be better, that teacher is going to be better. And I think we've always had our share of movers. I don't think it's more exaggerated. Getting back to one of the other things I was going to say about the previous point is that districts have damage control to do. The population generally doesn't trust government after COVID. And, had to close the schools. I don't disagree with that decision. But it created a mindset that changed the way people look at district schools. And I don't know that there's any way to actually undo that. It's kind of like letting genie out of the bottle a little bit. But I do think that over time that might diminish.
Yeah, it'll take
It might take 10 years, but people are going to forget that whole episode. They will.
Speaking of that, I was going to ask you also, I'm going to go way back to slide 4. Because when you talk about how we did not rebound as much after COVID, I feel like we did. But then that's right after that is when the ESAs, the universal vouchers came out. So I feel like we did rebound briefly. And then, like you said, we were the first, basically took the big hit right away with the vouchers. So that's what I see is going on there. But I don't know if you agree.
Lost about 350 and gained back 40. So it was a pretty big hole that it left.
Because I was looking at 2021, 5564, and then in 21-22, we're at 5603. And then I think 22-23 was the,
yeah, so
is
that's
that when the
only
vouchers hit? So that's my story, but.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the bars and not the percentages, it's flat. I would argue that
Yeah.
in our environment with the longstanding privates that have been around taking private school students for decades, that we probably didn't lose students. Their parents were choosing those options before, and when they became able to take advantage of a state program to pay for their kids' education, they took advantage of it. I think the fact that we've been relatively flat over the last number of years, where there has been tremendous pressure in other districts. My sister's district out in the Kyrene district losing 20% of their enrollment over years. I think we're pretty fortunate in that regard. I think ESAs have had an impact on us, but I think maybe not to the same extent as others have had.
Like he said, just that like first year they came out, it seems.
Yeah.
Kids were already in a private school.
Oh, for sure.
So, and the fact that you haven't had any growth or not much growth in that group since then is exactly what you're saying.
I do agree with what you mentioned too about the neighborhoods, and because that's all I have ever planned was that my kids are going to the neighborhood school. They can take the bus, we can walk. It was amazing. But there are I will test in my neighborhood that in the Heights neighborhood, that is not the case. We never see kids. They're there, but we never see them because they're driving to school, they're going to private school and charter school, and it really does change the feel of your neighborhood in a bad way, in my opinion. But
I notice it every May when you put the signs in your yard about you have a senior.
Mm-hmm.
I drive through my neighborhood. None of these kids go to school here. I mean, they're from Brophy, they're everywhere else.
Oh, I'm always surprised. We have some like Pinnacle, Saguaro. I'm
Yeah,
like, you're
no.
driving all the way out there.
Yeah, me too. It's shocking.
Thank you.
Dr. Guerin, did you want to make a point?
Yes, I just had a comment, Board Member Gresham's question about choosing. So we've been talking in cabinet about our middle school bump, especially in 7th and 8th grade. And so we're noticing a trend where folks are switching anyway when it's time to leave their elementary school, and sometimes their elementary school ends in 6th grade, and then they come to us in 7th grade or in 8th grade. So we're noticing some shopping when that elementary years ends.
Mr. Hunt.
Just one thing. I sit on one of the national scholar boards at ASU for the Truman Scholarship. It's like the Fulbright but nerdier is the way we describe it, but a very competitive national scholarship. And in talking to the national folks, we were asking them, how do we get ASU students to be more competitive for these scholarships? And one of the things they were saying is they're seeing over specialization in the folks that are coming to them who've gone through a variety of private schools, have taken, we're national champions in jiu-jitsu, right? but they need generalists, right? They need folks that are good at a variety of different things. So I think about that when I look at the product that we're offering in Madison, is how can we find that balance between specialization, right, and having themes, right, that are resident at the schools, but building really, folks that are generalists coming out of our schools that can go to a high school in the area and thrive, right, and go to a university and thrive. So when I think about it as a board member, out of the incredible information you presented, really, really excellent quality presentation, what can we control? We can't control birth rate. We're not going to control zoning, unfortunately, in terms of what kind of things are going to be built here. We can control the quality of our product, which is our schools and how specialized or not they are and what it is that they're producing. And we can control our messaging and our marketing, right? And so those are the two things. If we have an incredible product, then with an honest face, we can walk out and go recruit folks from in-district and say, you tired of paying to go to that school? Well, we've got a great one in your neighborhood and a bus that'll pick you up and drop you off.
I like that.
And go out of the district and say, hey, we have this incredible product. It's not that far from where you live. So that's where my mind goes with this is I can't fret about the birth rate, but I can, do everything we can as a board and as administration to create an incredible product and then go tell the story.
Thanks, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Holcomb.
Yeah, since you've brought this slide up, because this slide hit me because 2004 is when I got on the board. And one of the most important things that happened, I think changed somewhat the direction of the district, was a demographic study that we got. And there it was, the focus was on the aging at that time, the fact that we're pretty much built out, and the aging of our community. It basically said, we're not going to be able to, increase our enrollment or stay stable from what's inside, because we're still losing people. So that's when we started the traditional school, which did capture people from inside, and then really focused on, okay, how do we keep it growing? And you look at it as we started opening up the
Out of district
programs, our specific signature. That was the word I was looking for. Signature programs at each of the schools, and doing that. That was very intentional, and trying that, and also bringing out we were targeting students outside. The way the overall thing that I get from this is that was good then. I think what the ESAs would have done, they're taking students away from us, but I think they may actually be hurting the charter schools more.
They are.
And what we would do to try to really focus on doing that, getting a better capture rate, would also bring us in people from outside. And so what you said, look, we need to focus on this. I think it is trying to, now we've got our programs stabilized, but there's some of the programs that we've really readjusted Park. There's some looking at what the IB, how we can adjust that, maybe even the Spanish. We're looking at what's going to make those even more attractive internally. I think they'll work on the outside. And I think we need to have a real further push on the marketing. And I think we've started that way, but I think those things are things that we as a board need to really look at, because that marketing will work on both sides. It's the strength of our programs. One of the things I had a question about also is the capture rate that you're talking about within
service rate
within district rate. How do we look compared to other comparable, and it's maybe hard to say comparable districts, because there's certain districts where they don't have the competition that we have, but are we lower on the capture rate? Are we better? Or, do you see that, at least from my standpoint?
Where did it go?
It's always been an issue, but I think there's some cracks potentially in that, or some opportunities for us to really take advantage of that. And I'd like your opinion on that, or how, are we underperforming in that capture rate?
I wouldn't say you've always been lower. If I go back and look, you haven't had the decline in service rate recently that many of the other districts have. Your overall rate is low amongst most of the districts that we work for, at 50%. Most of them are closer to 60%. They used to be 80 or 85%. So everybody's riding this bus, if you will. But I'm most encouraged by you because it hasn't continued. It's not really where you are, it's that it hasn't continued to fall. That's the most important thing to me. But like you said, that fact also creates tremendous opportunity. We have 2,600 people we can go try to sell to.
I would say too, I've been in several districts, and I think it's really hard to compare this particular rate, because as I look at it and see all those private schools and charter schools on the boundaries and all throughout the district, and then I think about, having come from Mesa that really didn't have a lot of competition from charter schools or really private schools either, right? And so, but they had a higher capture rate, but it still wasn't probably as good as it should have been given the lack of competition. And they're seeing competition building out, ALA's building out in their district, and Great Hearts is in on their border. And so when I look at Madison, I think the district, if you look back at those histories, you've been challenged with things that other districts are just now starting to to grapple with, and you've been grappling with it for many years successfully. So that puts the district in a really good position as it compares to tomorrow I wake up and all of a sudden I'm declining in my local enrollment and I got more competition on my back door. You've already dealt with the competition. You've already dealt with the idea that you need to allow students to come from outside the district. So all those things are huge positives in my mind in where the district's at today compared to many of the districts around us. The question is, how do we capitalize on that, and where are the winds shifting a little bit, like this middle school change? What does that mean for our communications, our discussions, our thinking? We have to, I think, as you said, you kind of saw the prevailing winds when you got on the board, and good things were done to address that. The question is, what are our prevailing winds now? Do we even know what they are quite yet? We're seeing new trends, but they're not fully vetted, so we're going to have to watch them, but maybe not overreact to them at the same time. But be aware of the fact that today's environment is not yesterday's environment in Madison. So that's the part I'm trying to watch for as I think about our budget and staffing and all of those ideas, is how do we stay ahead of the curve so that we don't unintentionally inflict harm on staying with the trends that are in front of us.
I liked what you said about every place being different, because I look at your whole district. I do Scottsdale, and I do Scottsdale by community. So Arcadia, Coronado, I do it. I do 5 district models for their district, and you feel more like Arcadia. Very stable, but so much wealth that people are able to take advantage of every option and every private school, and Phoenix Country Day for $25,000 a year, and all of those things. And you've got that kind of population on the northwest corner of your district, where a lot of well-to-do people.
Yeah, but if I may, though, we actually have really, I think, you could say a number of different ones, but I think we've got 2 distinct populations. And I mean, we do have, half of our schools are Title I schools, and people don't seem to think of that. And it's that one of the things that I think has always been a strength is the mix.
Yeah, diversity.
When we look at a unification, one of the reasons I've argued against that is you destroy Madison, because you'd mix. We need the high economic kids and put them with the kids who are less disadvantaged. We get better education for both of them that way. But I think we're, and this may sound bad, I think we're missing a level of capture in the southern part of the districts, which is lower economic, and that too, where we could really try to cater that. And that may be picking students from other districts, but I think we really need to be, targeting that, trying to target that. And one of the things you brought, this a thought I've had is we have a different structure, as I understand it, than a lot of the districts in having 5th grade in the middle schools. That was, when I first got on the board, that was something that was really touted as a positive. And I'm not saying it's not a positive now, because I understand it. But we should, take a look at that, particularly as the demographics are changing and or the mix of students, if that makes sense to maybe adjust that. Because we've had, the district has gone from K-8 schools. Simus used to be, people would go other full together, and whether that, from attracting students and keeping them, whether that puts us as a disadvantage. And I don't know. I like the model very much. Right. But I think we need to be able to make decisions on real data that says, okay, is this something we should be looking at to offer something? Because there are some, I think we lose some people look at that and says, I don't want my 5th grader with the 8th graders.
Yeah.
Or,
And then they get here and their kid is ready for it.
Their kid is ready for it, and it's got a good model for trying to advance to high school. But there are people like the K-8, and maybe there's some, areas of adjustment for that, depending on our schools, to actually be responsive to what, as you said, Madison, the population is not what it was,
Right.
20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, or 5 years ago.
Right.
And I think we need to be very strategic. And I apologize, but this is the type of information that we look at in depth that really can help us focus on saying, okay, this is what we need to try to do, or this is what we need to be looking at to make a decision. Because that's what happened when we did it before, is you really looked at it and says, okay, there's all these ideas, but these won't, you play out, this one won't work. For example, we looked very seriously at the Montessori model.
Oh.
And the Montessori model is a very good model, but it doesn't add, it would not add students, and it was hugely expensive.
I know.
And so you look at it and say, because at the same time we're doing that, we were looking at declining enrollment and declining budgets at the same time, which is a double whammy. But there are, I think, again, that's what this has got me, I apologize, I got wound up about that.
So
I have, as I traveled around, though, from district to district, you have these camps of people that believe K-8 is the only thing that works. And then you have these camps of people who think that it's very important to get certain types of students, particularly, into a middle school environment and get them going towards high school. And I think the fact that you guys have both with MTA and, with the other programs is a real benefit, because the more options you can provide, the more people you're going to catch.
So to Mr. Holcomb's point, I think that the 2 slides on 7 and 8 that are color-coded with the rainbow, those are student distribution, but you don't have a slide that's capture rate by those squares, right?
I believe we did that for you. The thing about that is that we can only really do it accurately at a census.
Yeah.
So I believe we may have generated that map for you with 2020 data when we did our 2022 report. But there is really no source of information that I can get to get the denominator I would need.
So it's very hard to tell if
Yes.
there's anecdotal information and there's a little bit of a wag probably of
and
where
having at least
we're losing capture rate, right? Is it in the north? Is it in the northwest section, northeast section of the district? It is in the southern district, and we're not completely clear, right? Because we don't necessarily have that denominator.
Right.
Okay.
I can do this one.
Yeah.
This change map.
Right.
It can do it instead of as numbers, it can do it as percent.
Right.
And that at least, you can at least see the percent change.
Right.
So at least it kind of gives you an idea where the big losers and the big winners are.
Right.
And I would happily make that map.
Right. But for example, that one that lost in the bottom, right above Park, that lost 27. On the next slide, that has drawn on the other slide, it had 132. So to your point, the percentage, when you lose
Is
1
it
or
14
2, when
out
there's
of-
only 7 is very
Is it 14 out of
different.
15 or 14 out of 100?
Yeah.
And so
the
that
denominator is important.
I would be happy to make the percent version of this, even if I just distribute it to you guys for information.
That might be helpful, just so we have some
Yeah.
type of concept of where
I think
that
it would
is.
be.
I think it would be most useful to have both the percent and how many students that reflects. Because
Okay.
if you have 4 students,
Yeah,
we
we've got
have.
that.
I think together, those are things, because you may lose, 50% of 10 kids.
Right. No.
Or you may lose.
50% of 500 kids.
Yeah, 50% of 500.
Right, it's different. Just 2 comments that I have related to some of the other comments that are made. First, thank you so much for all of this information. It's so tremendously helpful. I think that one of the things about capture rate and how we and how we perform against our competitors. I know we've had, I've had my kids' friends who have made decisions about middle school, maybe going to private school because they're making assumptions and decisions about how that might lead to a specific high school. There's a large network charter school that's within our boundaries that's going to be closing, and I know at the Discover tours, we had parents who were saying, my school's closing. I might even move my kid this semester. So we are definitely one of those options that people are thinking about, even though they might have chose one of those other options previously. We are a high contender, and I think communicating that is going to be important. To your point, Mr. Hunt, about generalists, I think that, and Ms. Kazi and I talked about this after the tours, I think sometimes there's a little bit of confusion among our consumers when they hear about signature programs, and they ask, so if this is the STEAM or science-based school, is my kid going to get art? Are they going to learn English? And I think we might need to think about how we talk about Madison as a whole and the basics. You know, we deliver for the whole child. We are providing a solid basic education. We are, providing that general education, and then they can get enhancements in these areas at each of our schools, and we should just consider that, because I think our programming does that well, and our signature programs are just enhancements for kids to be able to enjoy and love learning the way that they, in something that they, want to show up for every day.
Can I just respond real quick to that? Because you're absolutely right. Because when we started down that path, we did talk about the idea was throwing out magnet schools.
Yeah.
And myself and Casey, we actually worked through and says, don't do that, because that's really pigeonholes. They say that's all. That's why we tried the word signature. And maybe what you're talking about, like, is we have enhancement. Say, look, this is a magnet education, and here's the enhancement program.
I know we know that that's what it means, but what I'm saying is parents don't understand what it means.
Always emphasize that on the tours, because they're always like, which school do I pick? And I said, it's fine. Like, you will get everything at every school. It's just which, do you want more of something? So I do try to let them know that, like, you will get art, you will get everything at each school. We're not going to only do one thing.
I don't think it's about the name or any of that. I just think it's about how people are consuming that information, and how we have an opportunity, even on those tours, to talk about, here's the basics that you're going to get, and then what a signature program means, because I think the public reads it as magnet. So I think also, to the point of being generalist, I'm really excited to eventually be able to get the Helios data, because I think we have a bigger story to tell about how our students are performing in high school and on in college. That, to me, is the bigger sell for our district, not just what can we provide to your kid once they get to 8th grade, but how that's setting them up for success in the future, both in high school and in post-secondary, not just college, but any post-secondary attainment. And I think that's going to be interesting when we're able to get some of that information from Helios. And then finally, to the point of neighborhoods and how they've changed, frankly, since 9/11, and you don't see your kids' friends out on the street. You just see their cars as kids drop off in the drop-off line. We have so many community partners, like the scouting programs, like RAMs, and multiple, Madison Football League, all of these things that really do create a sense of community, not just for our students, but for students who are going to other schools, which sometimes introduce families to Madison campuses for the first time when they're coming on for sports or for some other extracurricular activity. I think there could potentially be an opportunity to leverage those partnerships in a way where we're arming our families who are involved in those activities with the language that you were talking about, right? Like, let me tell you about how great of an experience my kids are having in the district. But I think there could be opportunities for partnerships with those longstanding organizations that we already partner with in many other ways. Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you again so much for bringing all of this information. I think it gives us a lot to work with as we consider any changes or supports that need to be made for the district as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
And thanks, Ms. Kazi, for being here. I know you have to run to work and a performance, so thank you for that. Next item on the agenda, wrong page. Community Education Program Fee Schedule. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the community, cabinet, and guests, I'll turn this over to Ms. Marshall to introduce.
Thank you, President Thompson, members of the board, and members of cabinet. We have fee-based programs in our community education department, the before and after school Madison Adventure Club, as well as the early childhood preschool program. And each year we do a review of our programs just to make sure we're remaining competitive and to provide recommendations for those fees that we would be charging. So to share the results of the latest review, we have our Director of Community Education, Tisha Briley.
Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Guerin, and Cabinet, thank you for the opportunity to talk through some of our plans for, it's hard to believe it, but it's been going around the 26-27 school year. We're already there, for sure. So we always like to look through any recommendations that we have through the lens of our Community Ed Purpose Statement, which is providing quality programs for students and families by growing and mentoring passionate staff, empowered students, and engaged family to connect with each other and become contributing members of that community that we just talked about. So as we dig into that a little bit, every year we go through the same process and look at how we can make things better for our families and communities. So we do things such as we listen to all the parent requests when we're registering and they say, hey, this isn't working for us, or hey, this would be really convenient if we could pick up earlier, drop off later, those types of things. We talk to our staff, what's working, what's not working, how can we make things better and provide the best possible education for your kiddos. And then we review data from other programs in the area. So we have 7, again, talking a lot about our private schools in the neighborhoods that provide preschool and before and after school programs. So we look at things like their rates, their registration fees, their program hours, and see how we compare to those. This process has resulted over the last few years in things like reinstating some of our DES sites, the new registration software that we did a couple years ago, and then which Ms. Thompson really likes. And then some of the large group changes that we had, which ultimately helped us eliminate our wait list for the before and after school program. So lots of changes have come from that. For this school year, we've made some changes that you approved last year. We added that school day option for our preschool families. So we just had our half day option ending at 12:30 and our full day option ending at 6. When we were looking at the other programs in the area, a lot of them had a smaller school day option, which kind of aligned to those K-4. So I have a kindergarten, first grade sibling. I don't want to make 2 trips to school. Let's do that. So we did add the school day option for families, which this year runs from 7 to 3. And we have 61 students participating in that program this year. It was a little bit of a surprise. We were a little worried that our full day kids were going to go from full day to school day with the less tuition. We found that a lot of our half day kids went to that school day program, which did pose some challenges with napping, which we'll talk about in a little bit. A lot more of that, but it was just an interesting influx of those students that want to, or those families that want to make one stop at drop off. We changed our half-day program last year to start at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock because we did do a small rate increase last year, and we knew that reducing that half an hour of service time would minimize that financial impact on families. So again, trying to make that as affordable as possible. And then one of the other things that we did change for this year is that we have families now paying that 2.99 credit card transaction fee if they're paying online. Families do have an option to drop off a check or a money order, or we do have some families that do the online bill pay so that they do not have to pay that fee. But it was just becoming a large 6-figure number that we were having to absorb, and so we have done that this year. So we are looking at looking ahead to next year and revisiting a lot of those same situations, and we're making a couple recommendations for a variety of things. So all of our programs, one of the things we found from our rate comparison is our registration fee. So currently for MAC preschool and our summer program, our registration fee is $65 per child, or $120 per family. So that does have a cap, and the lowest in the area was $75, ranging up to $200 registration fee per child. And so we are recommending to change that registration fee into that lower area of $75 per child with a cap of $130 per family, which would include MAC preschool and our summer camp. That helps defray a little bit of those software charges, those administrative charges that just come with all of the paperwork that's necessary for our licensing.
Ms. Breiling, really quick on that, if I'm remembering, because it's been a couple minutes since my kids were in preschool or MAC, those fees are then applied, if I'm remembering right, are they applied to tuition later or not?
No.
Okay.
No, they are processing with printing paperwork and help with some of the licensing.
Thank you.
And then we are recommending that all families continue to pay that credit card fee. Again, we are going to continue to offer, if families want to drop off checks or money orders or pay online, they can, through their bank's bill pay, that we can continue to do that. So looking more specifically at some program for MAC, for before and after school, we have made some huge progress this year. We were off our wait list in September, before Labor, that first weekend in September, which was amazing. And some of that economies of scale, now that we have over 1,300 MAC kids that we are providing services for, helps us to leave tuition rates the same for MAC. That does also pull over into our summer program because we align the summer fees with our MAC fees. So we're recommending to leave that the same. We've been able to have some savings with not paying licensing fees for some of our unlicensed sites. There has been a one-time reduction in licensing fees for the upcoming school year through the Bright Futures Arizona initiative through the governor's office. So we've been able to reduce that expense. So we are recommending that we leave the MAC tuition rates the same for the upcoming school year. We have a couple recommendations, however, for preschool. So you'll see down at the bottom, I mentioned we changed that half day back to 7:30 for this current school year. In talking to staff and families, that did not have the desired effect. It did minimize the tuition increase for that, but what happened is all of the families were dropping off their kiddos, and so we just had parents lingering in the lobby of our MAC offices and just signing in or forgetting to sign in, and it was just causing more headache than some of those reduced fees were calling for. So we are recommending that we move the half-day program back to 7 o'clock so that all of our programs open at 7 a.m. We find that helpful for parents who are trying to avoid the 7:45 drop-off as well, so they can get in and out if they don't have one of the older children. We are looking to reduce the back end of our half-day program, though. When we were looking at the area, the longest running half-day program within the district boundary is only 4 hours, and ours was 5. And so when we're looking at comparing rates and what families are paying for the half-day program, we're looking at reducing it by a half an hour just to kind of see how that works for our families. It will allow us to reduce the half-day rates, which again, our goal is to have a few more of those half-day families. We have some open half-day spots in preschool right now because I can't fill them with school day or full day kids because of my licensing regulations on I have to nap them 24 inches apart from each other on all sides, and our classrooms are only so big. So if we can enroll some of those half-day kiddos that go home before nap time, I can continue to keep the school day and full day nappers and then have a full classroom in the morning. The 7:30 change would still allow all of the academics, all of the social, emotional lessons that we do, small group, whole group, playground time, centers, all of the things that we require would still be able to fit into that 7 o'clock to 11:30 timeframe. And then I've already coordinated and had conversations with Ms. Soulsby in food and nutrition about if we have a student that maybe qualifies for free and reduced that gets a lunch before they go home, we can make that arrangement as needed for them if that's a concern for any of our half-day families. So recommending keeping school day and full day hours the same, but then changing our half-day from 7:30 to 12:30 to 7 to 11:30. With that, we're also looking at rates across the district and making sure that we're able to sustain the cost of inflation and potential salary increases, everything that we have to provide as a district so that we don't take any money for preschool out of the district's M&O budget. And so we are recommending a modest increase for our preschool rates. You'll see in that center column that what the current monthly fee is for, again, the half-day, school day, and full-day rates. Again, I mentioned with the hours pulling the half-day rate down, that would decrease the monthly rate for half-day from $720 down to $850, and then a modest increase for school day and full day of $36 a month for each of those programs, which would be split into 2 payments. We do have DES at 2 of our 5 preschool sites that does provide the child subsidy. We also have scholarships at all 5 of our preschool campuses through our Quality First program that allow families that qualify to have either a half-day or a full-day scholarship to help supplement them, because we want to get those kiddos into our classrooms early so that we can make sure they are as prepared as possible for kindergarten. So with that, just doing information today, and then we'll bring back for action in the spring. But we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Breiling. I know this is like a 3D chess game putting this together, and deeply appreciate it. Are there any questions? Ms. Gresham.
Quick question, because you mentioned them getting lunch. Does the preschoolers eat breakfast at school?
So breakfast is optional. So we don't take the entire, it's not everybody goes to lunch, but when parents drop off in the morning, they have a sign up where if they want their kiddo to eat breakfast, as long as they're there by about 7:20, 7:25, depending on the campus, then we are able to take our handful. Usually it's 5 or 6 kids per campus, and then we can go take them to the cafeteria to grab breakfast before our academic day starts.
Thank you. And I do appreciate, I remember having to wake my youngest up because I would pick up the other 2 at 2:30, and then he was in the middle of a nap. It was not pretty. And I was like, why am I doing this? So, and then I was like, let him sleep. Just come back later.
That's one of the reasons we kept the 3 o'clock for the school day, for 2 reasons. Parents didn't want to sit in the traffic for 2:30 if they didn't need to, come in and out and around that. But nap time is typically from 1 to 3, so let them get that full nap time in.
Yeah. Mr. Hunt.
I just want to applaud you on how rational all of this is. I think so many of us as parents, we don't feel like people are listening, but you clearly have demonstrated through this that, that is a deep part of your analysis. The second part is on where there are the rate increases. Again, I think they're rational, right? And I think so many people are feeling that there's irrational rate increases, right? And there are places in the economy where they're taking it because they can, right? Because it's happening across other parts of the economy. I think it's important for us as board members, as we go out into the community, to be able, not at the level of fluency that you were able to do it, because I'm not as good as you, be able to communicate that, right? Because whenever there is an increase, there's always that, well, why is there an increase? This is all, incredibly rational and important. And just your dedication to serving as many members of the community as possible in what is an incredibly hard time in people's lives is just admirable, and something that reinforces our ability to enroll folks long-term in Madison, as if they have a great experience with preschool. So thanks for your dedication to that.
Thank you.
Mr. Holcomb.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is phenomenal, and I have a question about the license, the decision we made, was it 2 years ago now, too, about having some of our MAC programs not licensed. How has that impacted the program a bit? I think that directly relates to the rates and what we're able to do.
So from the day-to-day operations of what we do at the schools that we chose to be unlicensed at, very, very little. There is a licensing fee, $2,575 per year per campus, that we have to pay separately. We no longer pay that for Madison Traditional, for Madison Meadows. We are unlicensed for MAC at Simus and Heights, but we do still have to pay the licensing fees for preschool way around the preschool fees. One of the things that we found when we started looking at some of those large group stipends that we had when we were trying so hard and desperately to get kiddos off the wait list for MAC is it gave us some flexibility to run groups larger than 1 staff to 20 students, which wasn't our first choice, but when we knew that we could have, 25 fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders in a group with a very capable staff member that could manage a group of students that way, we knew that the students were safe, and we were able to get more students off the wait list so they weren't finding other things to do after school. So we've been able to maintain all of the same expectations. We keep all of the same staff files. We keep all of the same procedures. We have the same sign in and out documents for everybody. So as a department, we keep things as much the same as we can, but it does give us a little more breathing room for, TCT days when we might have a few more kiddos, but be able to provide those services for families.
Thank you.
I was just going to add, Board Member Holcomb, it also helped us streamline hiring because there was a lot of red tape involved in hiring the after-school workers, and understandably so because you want a safe program for the children. But again, no flexibility because it was a program at a school, same requirements as if it were at a daycare. So it really did help streamline the hiring process.
Yeah, and the reports are coming back on this. I think what you've done with the MAC program and the things like that are rational and make it better have been phenomenal. I have a specific question on the subsidies. Are the subsidies, when they're offered, sufficient to pay for, or how much of the rates that we're talking about can be covered by the subsidies?
So it depends on which ones. The DES childcare subsidies is a sliding scale through them depending on the family's income, and they are assigned a copay per day that can be anywhere from $0 per day to $10 per day depending on the family's income. So that is a sliding scale for that DES figures out for them, and then we get a letter of approval, and then we are able to bill DES for the remaining balance of that. For preschool, the Quality First scholarships, the half-day and full-day portion of those scholarships makes a school day or full-day option for families under $100. It's in between the $40 to $60 range, again, depending on families, depending on how many hours a day that they attend, which I find helpful to have the families continue to pay something. It keeps a little skin in the game to make sure that we're here on time, that we're engaged in their child's education, that we're participating in their child's educational environment. But it does make a huge impact, and we have currently 27 total scholarships, but we have 32 families that are utilizing those that I am certain would not be able to participate in preschool if we didn't have those Quality First.
Yeah, well, and I think that you're right. It's important to have some skin in the game, but we want to make it as available as possible. Then the last thing is, this I think fits very nicely with what we were just talking about getting out to the schools. I think we should make a very determined act, or consider, not that, because this is a thought that just came in my head, but this is really pushing the marketing of our MAC program as part of what we offer. Because I'm working with other schools through the other work that I do, there's a real cutback on after-school programs, these type of support programs out of the edge because of the budget issues. Being able to go and show that this is what we do, this is important, and this is part of it. Like you're talking about, showing what is a Madison school, what's available. I think this is a marketing and enrollment opportunity that we are not taking enough advantage of, and can really differentiate us together, and it supports everything else we promote on Madison. And so I would like, the expansion and doing even more with the MAC program be part of our push to increase enrollment in the schools themselves.
Kind of to that point, a couple things. Well, first, the issue about the licensure. I think, when we had this conversation a couple of years ago, I was one of the first to speak up and say we need to change those stinking licensure requirements. There is no parent who is asking, I doubt there's any parent that is asking about whether their child is safe at our school because the MAC to child ratio is less than their teacher to child ratio in their classroom. Just annoys me to no end. So if there's a need, I think, for us to speak to maybe some of our representatives, that seems like an easy thing to change in a year that there won't be a lot of money. They could reduce some red tape for us. So to be able to have some outs, and I think one of the other requirements was requiring certain vaccinations for people that we don't even require of other school staff, if I remember, TB and other things. Anyway, we should do something about that. Second of all, and this is, second of all, the new system. I haven't had kids in MAC for a while, and when I went to use the system to sign my kids up for the 21st Century Grant Program, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's beautiful. You can see pictures, you can, discuss the program a little bit, and it's not just, where do I, what do I click on? It's really great. I had forgotten that we had adopted that. It's beautiful. I think it's got a lot of use to help, not just for a 21st Century Grant, but to help explain what the programs are and services we have, and congratulations, it's wonderful. And then finally, to the point that you were making, Mr. Holcomb, I think several of us have made, logistics matter to people. The reason we have a huge enrollment in MAC might be connected to the fact that we have a huge enrollment of people from outside the district. And logistically, to get their kids to and from school, there is no way that they would be able to. I actually have a friend who a couple years ago was on the wait list. She's a teacher in another school district, and the program was ideal for her student. She loves being a part of the program that she's in. But when she was on that wait list, she told me, if I can't get my kid in, I'm going to have to send them to my school. And that is not going to be the best academically suited for her. So I think not just, I think that when we did when we do the bus tours, we definitely highlight that we have the MAC program. We highlight the fact that if you're in the preschool program, you're on for admission into the kindergarten program. I think we had numerous, right? 5, did you say? 7. Yeah. We had 7 people change their preschool provider so that they could be ready to go to kindergarten in Madison schools. So I think adequately communicating about that, but also that, making sure we keep those wait lists down as much as possible. And if there's administrative to do that, I think it's we need to keep looking at that. So congratulations on that. Again, the MAC leaders that you've had are always so engaged. My kids haven't been in MAC for several years, but I ran into their MAC leader who's now at a different school, and she asks how they're doing. So it's really special. You hire a really special group of people who not just take care of those kids, but go out of their way to participate in their lives on the weekend, go to games and things, but then care about them past the time that they're in MAC. So thank you for this proposal today. And look forward to taking action on this at the January meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Action items. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board, cabinet, and guests, our last item, official item for the evening is the 25-26 performance-based pay. Dr. Lomeli.
Thank you, Dr. Guerin. Madam President, members of the board, cabinet. You have before you our pay for performance plan. We convened a certified performance compensation committee to review each of the aspects of the plan. We reviewed it, and each member of the committee went out and presented it to their colleagues, and we reconvened to discuss any comments, suggestions, and overall the committee, based on all the feedback, the decision is to keep the pay for performance plan the same. And if you recall, a couple of years ago, we totally revamped this plan, so it's still very new and relevant. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. We're recommending that this plan be approved.
Thank you, Dr. Lomeli. Any questions?
Just a quick, since we're not changing the plan, do we vote to do anything, or is it we have to do this each year on the plan?
We have to approve the plan each year, the governing board does. But the committee did, like I said, review it, and there's no recommended changes from the previous year's plan.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to adopt the 25-26 pay for performance plan as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Holcomb, seconded by Mr. Hunt. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, and thank you again to our award-winning Dr. Lomeli. Last on the agenda, discussion regarding future meetings. Dr. Guerin.
President Thompson, members of the board and cabinet, it's hard to believe that we are looking at our January reorg meeting. As you know, we keep this meeting streamlined and focused on the reorg of the board. So our action items will be focused around that. We will just have one other action item, and that's the community education program fee schedule. Of course, we'll continue to have some consent items as well. And then January 27th, our school showcase will be Madison #1 Middle School. And if you could scroll down, Ms. Humphreys, Mr. Thompson has won the policy lottery. Yes, so, and you could continue to scroll, Ms. Humphreys, all the way down. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Guerin and future meetings? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Gresham, seconded by Mr. Hunt. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.